This is one of those things that'll last for years and years and years, and you know what, maybe even decades, just because this is some of the highest quality full grain leather made for belts. This is an English bridle from the world-renowned American tannery Wickett and Craig. This English bridle has somewhat of like a waxy top and bottom layer, so the flesh side is actually very kind of waxed and smoothed out. It's a super tough leather. This is awesome for belts. It's great for things like coasters. This thing will take a beating and then some and hold up, like I said, for years to come. I actually wear one of these myself every single day in the dark brown. I'll have to show you guys what it looks like after a couple of years. It's the very first belt I ever made, and I wear it for myself out of that dark brown English bridle, made the exact same way you see in this video, minus some of the screws I'll talk about later. But it's held up amazingly, and I made it in the year 2020 because it was during COVID lockdown, and I started in leathercraft, and maybe the first 5 products I made, one of them was a belt, and I wear it every single day, and it's held up ever since, and we're going into 2025, so it's about 5 years old. I really like making these because it's very like hand tool heavy in the process. Lots of mallet use, lots of 1/8 inch punch. We got the tongue punch here for the did not like that word. For the buckle, for the tongue on the buckle, and lots of rotary cutting. This is one of my favorite tools of all time. This is the Master Tool Pro Edge Beveler from Weaver. It bevels both sides of the belt in one go, and it's got a super satisfying sound, which I hope you can hear behind my voice. I'll shut up for a second so you can listen to it. And when you're done, it's got this big like kind of bell ding. It's just an awesome tool. And then you flip the belt over and you can do the underside with it. So it's just an awesome, super efficient tool that saves just a ton of time. When I picked this up, I just wanted to make ASMR videos with that thing for days. After it gets beveled, this does get hand dyed using these markers that I filled up. You can actually buy empty markers, paint markers from Amazon, and I filled them up with Pro dye from Phoebings. It's a leather dye, and I use a dark brown dye or a chocolate dye for the dark brown belt, and then of course black. And the edges get dyed, the tip that gets cut off. This is a modern tip belt, so it's got kind of an angular finish to it. I dye that, and I dye the back side as well. Now, this dye is not going to transfer off onto any clothing. As a matter of fact, after I dye it, I hit it with Tokonole, and then I burnish it with a canvas cloth. So any dye that would have transferred transfers off onto my canvas cloth, and that Tokonole like hardens the edges so that it doesn't fray, and it helps solidify them so that it can last a long time. And it like patinas the edge too. It's just a really nice process. So lots and lots of hand crafting going into these forever belts, I like to call them. And then I actually stamp them on the opposite end of the tip, so like where the buckle is, where it folds in on the buckle, I stamp the size of the belt. These are all custom made to your exact size. And what I mean by that is, it's not an off-the-rack thing where it's like 34 and it's just like whatever your pant size is. It's not like that. What you're going to do is you actually measure your belt from where the buckle meets the leather, so that kind of fold-over part, all the way to your favorite hole, the hole that you use the most. And you know a belt, you can always tell what the favorite hole is because it's the one that's kind of like oblong and it's got kind of beat to shit over the years. So you measure from the end of the belt where the buckle meets the leather to that hole. Whatever that number is the number size that you want to order for these custom belts. So what I end up doing is, in the very beginning of the video, you saw me measuring out with my ruler and placing that strategically along the belt. That is me sizing it up to this particular customer's order, which in this case was a size 33 belt for both the dark and the dark brown and the black. So I measured it out to the third hole in. So every time you get the belt, when you first put it on, you will be using the third hole in from the end. That gives you 2 holes to loosen the belt up and 3 holes to tighten it down. So you have a lot of room for adjustment as we all get fatter and skinnier over the years. So hopefully this belt will be able to grow and shrink with you as time goes on. Obviously, buying a belt and then losing a ton of weight and it not fitting and the belt holes not lining up, it kind of can be frustrating. So buying a custom belt's awesome because it fits you perfectly right out of the box, just like your belt that you have now does. And you don't have to worry about like, oh, I gotta like get used to it being a little bit tighter. It just works right out of the box. Custom made belts are definitely the way to go. here I am installing the hardware. As I said before, the belt that I wear now has a little bit of a different hardware. I used to use double cap rivets. They kind of suck. So I upgraded over the years and learned from mistakes. I actually use Chicago screws now, which are, they install with a flathead screwdriver. So the belt buckle is actually removable. I get this question a ton. If you want to remove the belt buckle and put on a silver version, or if you don't like the roller buckle that I use and you want to swap it out, if you want to get fancier, it doesn't matter. As long as it is a 1.5 inch buckle, you can use my belt and swap it out for your buckle. Chicago screws are awesome. They install super easily. You can also add, if you'd like to make it more permanent, a dab of Loctite on the threads, and it'll never ever come off, and you won't ever have to worry about changing the buckle. With that said, be sure to be ordering it for your custom size. Use the sizing guide on the listing.